Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast. My name is Ben Jackson, and I'm back to host this one. And once again, I'm joined by Scott and Joris. Guys, how are you doing this evening?
Really, really well. Hello, guys, and hello, everybody listening, wherever you're listening.
Hi. All good, as well. So, let's dive in.
Yeah, there's plenty to get through this week. We did promise an extra bit of CPL action as well from missing out last week, so we will definitely be diving into the second division later on. But first, as per usual, we will start with the Pro League. Quick run through of the results, and then we'll get into a couple of talking points that have come out. Friday's game did actually finish on Friday, which was quite nice, a rarity compared to last weekend. Charleroi ended their losing streak with a 1-0 win very late on over Anderlecht. Westerlo drew 1-1 with Dender. Dender at least picked up another point, but still waiting for that first win. 12 games now without one. It's not looking good. Safe to say. Mechelen, they drew 1-1 with Leuven. Leuven striking very late in that game to grab a point. They've got a new head coach. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Ghent responded to their 4-1 drubbing at the hands of Zulte Waregem last weekend with a 4-0 drubbing of their own. This time they dished it out onto Standard Liège. Quite strange players to score braces. I guess Gandelman's not too strange, grabbing 2, but see Van der Heyen scoring 2, like you wouldn't really bet on that. Good to see Max Dean back though, guys. It was great to see him get back on the pitch after that long injury. Got an assist as well, so yeah, already making an impact. And he seems to me that sort of player that will want to make up for lost time. Speaking of time, Antwerp seem to be running out of it, especially Steph Wills. That was another defeat. They lose 1-0 to Club Brugge. They had the chances. They really did have the chances to get something out of this game, but they just couldn't. Cercle Brugge drew 1-1 with Zulte Waregem. Speaking of games with chances, I think both of them had something ridiculous, like 18 shots. Jeppe Ehrenberg with another goal. He is now joint top scorer in the league. Fantastic season for him. Diakite with his first, I believe, for Cercle Brugge. Really nice header, actually. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch that. Love the finish. Genk and well, quite funny. We spoke about Genk having gone 20 games conceding within 8 minutes. It was 21. Raal, who have not scored for 3 matches in a row, scored within 8 minutes, which was quite funny if you're not a supporter of Genk, I can imagine. That one finished 1-1. Dan Heymans with his first goal for the club joining from Charleroi. Nice finish. Looked like Sadiq might have won it at the end, and Piano made a fantastic save late on as well to keep it 1-1. Union, they won again under David Hubert. That one finished 2-0. Kevin Rodriguez coming off the bench to grab 2. He's also on 6 goals for the season. So he is sitting top of the pile with Jeppe Ehrenberg. Let's talk about Leuven, guys. Felice Mazzu is back in the Pro League. I felt like I following in Scott's footsteps, felt like I needed to write something about this just to get my thoughts out there. So I have put something out on Get Belgian Football, which I will link in the show notes as well if people are interested. Well, I've just kind of put it's his last chance in the Pro League. It has to be his last chance in the Pro League. Like, we spoke last week about David Hubert, and Scott, you were talking about the system that David Hubert is going to go into in Union and how like lots of coaches thrive within that system. Is Mazzu like one of the biggest examples of someone that thrived within that system, and the moment you took him out of the system, failed at Anderlecht, failed at Charleroi, I guess we could say he did he kept them up at least, which is what he's meant to do, but it wasn't what they expected to happen. Failed at St. Trude, and that one just, it didn't go well at all, and they decided to pull the plug there. He's now been given the Leuven job, which it just is such a bizarre appointment in my mind, because they've just completely set fire to what it seemed to be the direction they were going in the summer, where they were like, we're going to bring in a young Belgian coach to kind of try and give this thing some life. And they've already immediately gone, we're just going to go to someone that's got some experience, like very, very quickly, despite having lots of options. Timmy Simons was one name that was mentioned that I thought could have been a good one. There's another manager who does now have a job, but he could have been great for them if they'd actually reached out and got him, and Jonas de Rock. We will speak about him a little bit later as well. So Mazzu takes over Leuven. They are second bottom, 2 wins from 12, 9 points from those 12 games, just 9 goals scored. We all know where the problem is. 21 conceded as well at the other end. But defensively, they seem to have improved a little bit in recent weeks, and they've shown a little bit of fight. They were good against Club Brugge, I thought. I thought they kind of put in a decent performance. They just can't score, so they weren't ever going to win that. And then against Mechelen, they show some fight to grab that point late on. But I'm super skeptical, as if I just don't see how this is going to work. And I think I said in my piece that Leuven's like a really complicated Rubik's Cube that no one seemed to have worked out yet. And I don't think Mazzu's the man that's going to work it out. As much as I like him, I really like I think, I don't know what you guys think, but what I want to see is Mazzu come in and play the football and the style of football he played at Union, and we haven't seen it in the last 3 jobs. Are we going to see it in Leuven? They've got some ex-Union players, so maybe he can tap into that. But I'm pretty skeptical. I think they should, out of the two were Mazzu or Simons. I think they should have gone for Timmy Simons personally. I'm interested to hear what you guys think on this.
Well, that's interesting, because I think between those two, I think I would have gone with Mazzu on the basis, and this is where I kind of understand it, on the basis is here is a club that, we've said this before, they're a bit meh. That's kind of how whenever anyone mentions Leuven, you're like, oh, we're talking about a beige football club here. The thing about Leuven is they're a little bit soulless. That's kind of how I would describe them as a club. They feel like they lack direction and they lack a culture inside the club, and it's all just, there's something a bit hollow about them, I think. And I think going with a coach now who has a reputation for being strong with motivation and man management and knitting a team ethic, a good team spirit together, in a side at this moment in time, I think is probably quite a good pick for them. It's, I think, a short-term appointment in the sense that even if things work out quite well for him, I don't see that much longevity in it, because they're not a club who really feel like they have a plan as such. Whether it's his last chance or not, I think being Belgium, I think we're going to see Felice crop up at a number of other clubs still at other points in the future. But I do understand it, and I think he does offer them a lot of probably what they need at the moment. Whether it works or not, we're obviously going to find out. I think he was talking over the last 24 hours actually about how motivated he is to kind of prove that he's a good coach, which I think he is. I mean, what's interesting is he's now coming into this role off the back of his last 3 jobs, which unquestionably didn't go well for him. St Truden started very positively, and then kind of went off a cliff, and some of that had to do with some of the personalities that came into the dressing room. They really rolled the dice there, and it didn't work out for them at all. The coach, who's got a reputation for being a good man manager, lost the man management battle on that one. So I do understand it. I think he's got a tough ask on his hands, actually, because I'm not sure the side, although there's potential for them to do better and they should be doing better, I think their position at the moment probably reflects the fact that what I was saying, that the club's just a bit hollow. There's something missing there to kind of galvanise this group. And it's a lot to ask of one man to not only motivate a group of players and get results, but to lift an entire club, which I think is what is required here as well. I think the bigger work is Jorgi Kaspregi's off the park as the sporting director. It's his job to put a culture in place, and a sporting structure that the club can benefit from. And despite some okay signings, I think, that doesn't feel like it's there yet. So it feels like the weight of all the expectation is now on the coach, on Mazzu, and I don't think that's going to help him. He was talking quite positively about their performance this weekend. He was in the stands watching them draw at Mechelen, and in truth, if they'd taken more of their chances in that game, they could have potentially won it. They did deserve the draw this weekend. They kind of got what they deserved in the end. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. The big question is the one that Ben's already highlighted. Can any coach go for 4 different clubs and not have a decent run at one of them, and come out of it intact? We're about to find out. That's an interesting test.
Yeah, just that Simons and Mazzu were the two main options is on its own already getting a sign a bit of like the grey mouse and not looking far at least, because Mazzu kind of has some more personality in a sense maybe than Simons, but still like yeah, still a bit more well, I'm not that much either, maybe or a different, a very specific brand, maybe, which not always shows off. Last two clubs also that he managed also ended up in the spot where the Leuven currently are, or at least want to get out of now with him at the helm. Um, which is of course the relegation playoffs spot there. So that's not boding well for him. Between Simons and Mazzu, I still would have probably gone for Simons, because I do think he did a good job. And in the last few jobs in Westerlo, yeah, they're more ambitious maybe than but I still think he did quite a good job at Westerlo, better than he has been given credit for. As we maybe also see a little bit in the rest of this season, which is also still not really, really working out. Over, even though it's not too terrible either. But yeah, and mainly he's younger, so indeed he might improve a bit more, while Mazzu might be more set in his ways already, which could be what they need, but I'm not convinced that it is at the moment. Yeah, and Leuven, it's still a bit of an enigma, that club, how that still can be a grey mouse and then have all the money backed and like really have technically having the ambition to be a way bigger club that they are, also having actually a good accommodation and a good well, everything is in place. Location also inside Belgium it's quite central, so in theory there is everything in place at least, but somehow they keep making the wrong decisions all the time. Whether this one is a wrong decision, I can't predict, but it's not an exciting one, at least, so not an entertaining one. So in the sense of, if you at least want to get a bit rid of that image of a gray mouse, I'm not convinced that this is the right choice. Neither would have been Simons, maybe, who I'm sure inside the dressing room it's different, but he doesn't have as much charisma, at least, either, which is something Mazzu has to a certain extent. But yeah, whether it will be enough, yeah, we will see. Also, a playing style, especially with the smaller clubs that he's managed with Mazzu, it's not always been as attractive either. So in that sense as well, that's where Simons maybe would have made a bit more of a difference. Maybe in like would have probably played a little bit more entertaining football, which may or may not be what they need at the moment. But for it would have been a more interesting choice to me, at least. Okay, maybe they did want to. I don't know. I don't remember how it's communicated. We never know the end of these things anyway. But what was revealed in the press about, like, was it Simons that didn't want to in the end because they couldn't meet his requirements, or the other way around? Given the backing they have, I doubt it's that it's Simons that's put it off. But Simons would have been more in the sense of that Jonas Zaruk, who has already been mentioned by Win, that he feels that would be a good one. It would be more that vein, maybe. But it became Mazzu, and yeah, let's see. I mean, it's difficult to do worse, I guess. There's not many clubs that have done worse than Leuven did this season. But yeah, is it going to be enough? That remains a question.
Yeah, I think they've also. I think they've got 8 weeks without Steve Strevers as well, and that's a big miss. Like, he's such an important player for them. One of those few players in kind of quality that they've got consistently. Like, they've got some players like. I'll still always think Yusuf Maziz is a good player. Like, I just feel like the last couple of coaches haven't got it out of him. Like, what was his first season when he joined, 2023, 2024? 8 goals and 7 assists. Like, that's the level that if you can get that out of Yusuf Maziz with a bit of other stuff around it, you'll be fine. 2 goals so far this season. 1 assist as well. Like, is Mazzu the guy that can get that out of him? Does he try and get Lapu Sanad like in January? Is that his go-to? He seems to be the only one that can seem to like get that guy on the pitch. I don't think even Leuven would entertain a Lamkowski reunion with Mazzu in January. Maybe even he wouldn't if he's still in charge. Maybe, I don't know, but it needs like a. I think the kind of not even just like with Scott. You've always talked about like they need to set the culture behind the scenes and stuff, but I think on the pitch we need to see like a shake up of kind of personnel a little bit. In my mind, like the formations, it's stagnantly the same. It's 3 at the back, 4 across the middle, maybe 3 up front with wingers, 3 up front with 2 attacking midfielders, and then the striker on his own. And it's like all the coaches have come in and just seem to be doing that over and over again. Like someone just come and mix it up. Like let's see some different formations. Let's see something else. The problem is that that's Mazzu's formation as well, isn't it? That 3 across the back, 4 or 5 maybe across the middle, and then the 2 up front. So maybe we'll see a 2 up front, but I know that Joris might speak about their top scorer later on when he does his player of the week, and that's a damning indictment, and it's always been that way. But get something out of Maziz. Mertens, if he can stay fit, you've got another player there that can do stuff as well on his day. He just cannot stay fit, which is super frustrating for everyone, because I've always thought he's a good player as well. But yeah, good luck to Felice. Hopefully this is more successful. Everyone knows my opinions on Leuven. It comes from a place of frustration, because I just see the potential in that club. Like Joris has already mentioned, location, the city. Obviously, it's got that world class university as well. So it's university city. It's lively and stuff. And I don't know, guys. I feel like I need to go watch a game there to just work out what is going on and see kind of like off the pitch, like if it is what I think it is and all that sort of stuff. So Leuven is kind of on my radar of my next trip to go watch, hopefully to see something entertaining, but I don't think it will be. Unfortunately, in Belgium, some people are struggling to watch any games in Leuven because of the coverage that is being provided. And this isn't really a topic we'd normally talk about, but I feel like it's quite an important one to do, because it could have ramifications for those of us that watch it outside of Belgium as well. So at the moment, DAZN, as we know, or DAZN, signed that long-term deal with the Pro League to show the games. We believed that they were going to be showing 3 games a week for Belgian football in England, in the UK, and in other countries as well, that would be free. But it's, as is anything with this, like if anyone's tried to watch anything on that kind of app or site, it's so complicated to work out what subscription you need to access what. Suddenly after the first week, everything was behind the regular subscription, I guess we could call it that, which was a shame. It was a real shame that kind of, I think for the Pro League, it really could have benefited from having games free to air outside of Belgium. If you want to grow your brand, I think that's the way to do it. So many other leagues are doing it through OneFootball, especially there's loads on OneFootball. You can watch Australian Bundesliga, you can watch Norwegian Elite Serien, you can watch Slovakian football for free on there as well. YouTube, you can watch German second division games completely for free. Bundesliga's got a deal with the BBC as well, where they'll show a couple of games a week. So these leagues, some of these other leagues are starting to realise that this is the way to go. What came out this week was basically DAZN have been fined because they haven't been very clear about the subscription packages and what's available for who and what's available for what. And now the biggest fear, isn't it, guys, is that they're just going to completely pull out of the whole thing that they have done before in France. They'll just pull out of it and suddenly no one's got the rights. And there was such a big thing about the rights throughout the summer as who was going to have them. It was kind of up in the air. Then we found out DAZN had them. It's like, okay, great. I guess for us outside of Belgium, it's I don't care who's got the rights. I just want to know if they've got them and are they going to show me football outside of kind of any having to use betting websites where I've left 10p in there for a couple of years now just so I can watch Belgian football, and it's horrendous, and you don't get the commentary, you don't get any of that, and it's pretty poor. But I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like this is the moment that the Pro League needs to take a look and just be like, okay, right, what is the best solution to this? Where do we actually take this now? It's hard because obviously there's so much money tied up in this, and it's important in the terms of kind of the spread across the teams and stuff like that, and it's political as well. Let's face it, is political. The politicians are getting involved. That's why we've reached a situation where DAZN have been called to come in and answer some questions about subscribers kind of having issues with what they can access and stuff like that. But I'm just of the opinion that I think it's really easy for me to say this from the UK, but there should be some sort of, I guess, paid for subscription within Belgium. Like in England, I feel like I'd have to pay to watch English football because it then entices me to also go to matches as well. Like if I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay for that, but I want to go watch football, I'll go watch football and go live into the stadium. And we want the stadiums to be full because the atmospheres are so great and stuff. But if you want to grow your league outside of it, you can't put a paywall on your leagues anymore because there's just too much competition. I saw someone in the comments saying, oh, it's ridiculous. Like if I want to watch Premier League, this, I have to sign up to DAZN to watch all of them. And I was like, if you offered that to someone in the UK where they could go to one place to watch every single league, we'd snap your hand off for it. Because at the moment we have like 3 or 4 different things that you have to go for. Like I don't subscribe to Sky Sports because I subscribe to DAZN so I can watch the Belgian Pro League. Like you're making all these decisions. That's very, very niche. Like there are very few other people in the UK that are going to say, I won't watch Premier League football because I'm going to go and pay for Pro League football with Serie A kind of added in as well. Although I feel like probably Serie A is the draw and the Pro League's probably the bonus, but maybe that's just, me thinking things when actually everyone just wants to watch the Pro League. But that's the situation you find yourself in. You're not a top league. La Liga is struggling. Liga is struggling. They've put theirs behind a paywall. I just watch the highlights of that now because I'm not going to pay for Liga. And like if your audience is having to pay so much money for different leagues, they're not going to pay for the Pro League. I think the Pro League does need to find a way of airing some of these games completely for free, either on YouTube with commentary from Will and people like that, just to grow the kind of interest in the league, if that's what you want to do, if that's the aim. If it's not, then you've got to find another person that's going to stump up some money for this. And I don't know, it feels like it's a struggle for any league that isn't the Premier League at the moment to sell the rights to their game that keeps them competitive. So it looks like we're about to get into another messy situation, and we are literally only in October. So yeah, it's worrying, I guess, for fans within Belgium and fans outside of Belgium, because we just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is really worrying because we've got a situation now where DAZN would like to renegotiate the terms of the deal, which realistically isn't going to be possible. There is a clause in the contract that allows you to renegotiate and for the Pro League and the rights holders to come together to do that. But the chances of an agreement being reached are actually very small. And even if it were, it's going to be an agreement on a reduced basis in terms of the money. And that would mean that those providers who kind of were interested on the fringes could legally challenge that because the terms have changed, and they went, well, this changes things kind of completely. And if that had been, the original basis of the terms, then we would have been interested at that price. So that's not going to resolve itself. The biggest worry is that, with a World Cup looming in the horizon, there is the possibility that DAZN might want to go for some of the broadcast rights on that. There's a much juicier contract available to them on that because it is, the world's biggest sporting event. And that in order to meet the costs of that, they would drop the Pro League potentially. Now, they have history here, and this is why people are worried, because in France, they dropped their rights coverage on French football. They paid the penalty fines in the contract there basically to get out of it. The penalty fines, if they were to do something with the Pro League financially, is a much smaller hit to DAZN than dropping French football was. So, people are looking at it now going, well, if that's the road they want to go down because they're trying to increase their profitability, then that doesn't look like a bad option from a purely business point of view. Looking at it from the fans' point of view, okay, how do you then watch Belgian football? Ben's right. I think the Pro League need to decide what's plan B here in the short term. and in the medium term as well. I think we've been moving towards probably the Pro League either having their own channel, or some clubs, going it alone. For quite a long time. I didn't think it would necessarily happen during the 5-year term of the contract that's just started, but we're now in a situation where we don't know whether, that contract's going to see the end of its first year, never mind 5 years. So some thought needs to be given to this now, before it gets to a point where maybe it does all collapse. There needs to also be a pay-per-view option, I think, as well. I think a lot of people would be interested outside of Belgium in a paid subscription to watch all of Belgian football, because the reality is the interest is there and it's growing all the time. We know that because we're part of that movement. We've been partly responsible for it. We're part of the vanguard behind, driving that interest. And it's important to kind of point that out. So we're part of that bigger picture of, making the product more attractive and more visible to people. There are definitely people who'd be interested in paying a subscription. Much like Ben, I'm one of those people who would quite happily pay for a subscription to watch all of Belgian football at the expense of anything else. People ask me, oh, did you see this game last night? Or did you see that Premier League game or that game? And my answer is always the same. I see virtually no football now other than Belgian football. And I'm absolutely fine with that. In fact, I'm more than fine with that. I actually quite like it that way. But I think in order to entice people in, there needs to be a pay-per-view option. For a short period, there was actually, when the previous rights holder had it, there was a period where you could watch individual games, and it was actually very cheap. I think it worked out at about £3 a game, which is really good. So you could watch a lot of games each weekend and it wouldn't actually be that expensive, and that was a great thing because it allows people to dip in and out as well, and it gives them a taste for it, and also generates extra income on top of subscription packages. So I think there needs to be both. But yeah, Ben's point about the fact that it's not tenable anymore to have everything behind a paywall, because the interest's growing, so the money's there. It's just whether the deal from the rights holder's point of view kind of stacks up. But there are missed opportunities here, and the Pro League themselves can raise a lot of revenue should they need to go down this road, I think, as well. I don't think they really want to, because that's a big ask. There's a big responsibility there, and I don't think they see that as their main job. But in terms of the worldview product in Belgian football, then they may have to kind of just step up here and either do it themselves or go into partnership with somebody who can help make this happen, because lots of other leagues are managing to do it and having a lot of success with it. And the same needs to happen here, because we're not going to see a point in the future now, even if DAZN pull out, where the clubs are going to get a favourable deal financially. I think the days of a certain level of guaranteed income are gone as well. So clubs need to get more creative about increasing their own revenue streams. And this is separate to kind of TV money. That has to happen as well, because some clubs generate virtually nothing in their own income streams. Some of them are really, really poor at merchandise and the basics, the day-to-day basics that you would imagine, because people want to buy them as well. That's another thing factored into this. There's lots of people outside Belgium who want to buy a Mechelen top. Ben is wearing one this evening. You can't see this, but we can. And other clubs in Belgium as well. People want to buy these tops, and they can't, because in a post-Brexit environment, and this is not a criticism of Belgium at all, but the UK has kind of screwed itself by putting itself in a situation where these things are not available to it unless you're either in Belgium or you have a friend who can send it over to you. So there's all sorts of weird stuff going on here that frankly is just a bit silly, and this is a part of it as well. But it is worrying, because from the day this deal was signed, it looked shaky, I think, didn't it?
It definitely did. And the clubs only care. The Pro League only cares about money. That's what they went for. That is clear. That's now coming back to them, and many of the clubs as well. Like that my main fear is that many of the clubs, indeed, as Scott mentioned, are actually living on the TV money, and have virtually no income outside of that, and definitely do need that TV money to just stay alive, as well, to stay up above the water. And that's very worrying. And the signs are also very worrying. Next Friday, we might know a little bit more when the next installment should be paid by the DAZN to the clubs, if that just is going to happen, or not. And if not, then what will happen? What will the reaction be? But definitely a lot of worrying signs. I'm a bit more skeptical than Scott as well, a bit about in realistic. Maybe I hope I'm not, but I fear I might be, in the sense of how much revenue that could be generated outside of Belgium as well, for pay-per-view options and so on. As you mentioned, it was there at some point. There might be a reason why it's not implemented now as well, that it might not actually be financially viable for any provider to do so in the end. That's and the interest is difficult to measure, of course, as well. We know there's some interest, but of course through our own platforms, but how big is it in the overall view of an overall bigger scheme of things is yet another topic, and I have no data on that, of course, myself, but I doubt it's more than a blip in the ocean, in the ocean. So it's not really. Maybe it's not that the importance to them as well. But my main worry really lies with these clubs. Well, we already know if, there is already, even in the few years we're doing the podcast, a few clubs had to go into bankruptcy, or had to go down, and for extra sportive reasons. And that, I fear, that just might be the case again if there's no solution to be found. And let's hope that many clubs did not really go all in this season, specifically, for example, with all the TV money, because those clubs, of course, would be the most affected. Eventually, there will be some kind of solution. That solution will bring less money. That's also quite clear, I think, at least on the short term. But hopefully it will still be something that most clubs will be able to live with, and have enough with for survival, or both survival, let alone trying to grow, of course, as well, in their and that it doesn't hamper them too much, because of course this option of selling their own rights, that's something some of the top sides want to do already for a few years, and for them it actually might be good, but for the smaller clubs this would really be hammering that nail on their deathbed. Wait, that's not the right word, but not so. I'm trying to make a saying here, but it doesn't matter. But like it would really make it difficult for them to survive, and it might be enough to not be able to survive if there's no solution to be found. I do think the Pro League should not have gambled, but it's too late to talk about that now, of course. But like the Pro League gambled with that contract and going for the finances. Then DAZN also gambled with going for that contract at that price before knowing the league format as well. And now you can see what could happen, as indeed saw in France as well, with DAZN. It's looking a bit scary and a bit bleak at the moment, but we will see how the dish will be served in the end.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely keep people outside of Belgium updated, because I presume people within Belgium will be more than in tune with kind of what's going on and what's happening, but if anything kind of affects the more like international picture for the league, we'll definitely kind of keep on that. But I think it's just one of those things that in my mind, and this is, I'm obviously not a CEO of a pro league or anything like that, and these just it's a simple decision in my mind, but we're in this kind of terrible era for sports in my mind, where the people that are in charge of a lot of the sports that I really care about and love are so fixated on making as much money as possible. They're not thinking about the longevity of those sports. I'm not talking about the pro league. I've seen it. People in England, if you're a fan of cricket was free to wear. We won the Ashes in 2005. That was the moment myself, loads of people that I know got into the game. Sky just put it behind the paywall, and now it's in decline, and now they're trying to get it back onto free to wear because they've realised that if you take some of these sports off free to wear, like, you will lose the fan base. And the Tour de France is the next one this is probably one for all Belgian listeners that probably will be interested to hear about, I guess. But kind of, it's now been taken off free to air TV in the UK. It will no longer be there. It's now behind a paywall. £30 a month if you want to access it. How many people are going to be spending £30 a month to watch cycling? Just the diehard fans, and that's going to be it. So as the space shrinks in terms of what is actually available free to air, some leagues could be quite clever and be like, we can make the most of this. There's so little free stuff available in the UK and places like that. Why don't we just stick our league in there and just see what happens? Like, you just never know. It could hit. You could get watches. And then maybe people will start to sponsor it because they're like, well, this is free to wear. More people are watching it. I'm happy to put some sponsorship money in. So it's kind of one of those things, the way I think about it. But I think first and foremost, what the Pro League has to think about is what people can access within Belgium. They're the most important people within this because they're the fans of the clubs. Like, yes, there are fans outside of Belgium, but the majority of fans of Belgian clubs are in Belgium. And that's who the Pro League really need to think about and really need to take care of and make sure that they're able to watch it. And like Joris said, in terms of safeguarding those clubs that rely so much on that money, like, how do you do that? And it's not easy. And like you said, Joris, we've seen clubs go bust, even with all this TV money that has potentially been around. They just go under because they aren't sustainable, which is a real shame. And then they come back as Phoenix clubs sometimes, which is quite nice to see. But yeah, it is definitely a worrying sign. Let's move to some more positive things and talk about our players of the week. Scott, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, my player this week is a player who was described by his manager as somebody who nobody likes. Nobody likes him, said his manager. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Omri Gandelman. Again, who's actually having a very good season. He's on course probably for his best season there yet. He's got 5 goals in his last 4 and 6 and 10 so far this season. 31 and 97 appearances overall, which ain't too shoddy either. I've said this before, but Gandelman is the one player, again, I think, who you can rely on to get you some goals, and he's kind of proven that. He was never signed to be that player, but has kind of become that player. He provides that thing that's almost been missing from the side for a long time. Yeah, Ivan Leko this week was very funny. He said nobody likes him. Everyone says he can't play a 5-yard pass. And then he went on to talk about how he sees him every day in training. And he says the thing about Omri is he's incredibly hardworking. He has a reputation for being one of the first to turn up for training and generally being one of the last to leave as well. He's reportedly very interested in his own nutrition. He's got a big interest in his own video analysis as well. So he's one of those players who spends a lot of time doing his homework on himself and poring over his own data as well. A lot of players, incidentally, now employ data companies on a freelance basis to put together data packages for them so that when they're, off of the training pitch and they're at home in the evening, they can kind of pore over their own numbers in different ways as well. So he's clearly a very hard worker on and off the pitch, and it does show. And he's a player who comes alive in the box. That was something that Ivan Leko said this week as well. He was saying that, look, it's in the box where he becomes really, really interesting. You can forget about him, outside of the 18-yard box, but as soon as he gets in there, things can and will happen if he's playing. And I think that's true when you see how he scores his goals as well. Couple of goals this weekend against Standard. Happy 125th to the Buffaloes, by the way. They had, around 60 ex-players and coaches and legends connected to the club along, all getting a bottle of champagne, personalised bottle of champagne. There was the obligatory anniversary tifo. Lots happening down Gentway this week, which went unnoticed by anyone who wasn't a Buffalo fan, I think. But yeah, happy anniversary to them. These occasions are always nice. Big Hein was there, making himself well known, appearing in front of the cameras, doing lots of photographs and selfies and things like that. Still likes the limelight, despite what he says, I think. Good for a quote as well. But yeah, Omni Gandelman, he's still got it, and he's still doing it for the Buffaloes.
Yeah, I mean, Lecco's saying nobody likes him, while Heinz literally there seems a bit mean, because Van Hazenbroek is clearly his number one fan, because he literally made them sign him against the wishes of the scouting department. And it's one of those funny ones, because how you described him there, Scott, is how people describe like poachers and strikers, isn't it? You're not going to get much out of them outside of the box, but the moment they get in the box, it's great. It's like, I've never heard a midfielder described as not being able to do anything outside the 18-yard box, and he's one of those players where I think last season Franken was like, he doesn't really do what I want him to do, so I'm not going to play him. But by not playing him, we're missing out on 10, 12 goals a season if you don't play him. Like, he does just score goals. He's such a funny player. I like him because I just love that he's just, doesn't really do anything, but you stick him in a box and you just can bundle the ball into the back of the net. And it's just, it's a quirk of football where that you talk about him pouring over the data and stuff. His data can't really show much. And it wouldn't be something that other teams would look at. And if you properly scouted him, I don't think you'd sign him unless you're at a lower level and you think he can probably impact the game more. Do you know what I mean? It's a throwback one where you'd just be like, this guy scores goals. I need someone to score goals. I'm going to stick him in my team. And he does it. And he does it so consistently. It's great. I love it. It's really, really funny.
He is quintessentially an enigma, because for a player who is generally considered an attacking midfielder, if you had to describe essentially his position, here's somebody whose strength is not getting between the lines and playing football, whatever that means. You know what I mean? To a coach, whatever your system is, it's all about the box, which Lecco was highlighting this week, and that's kind of interesting, because what that tells you is if you pay attention to what a player actually does, even if it confounds what he's supposed to do, it's the Franken thing. He doesn't do what I want him to do, play between the lines and break lines, and he decides to do it all himself. Here's a guy probably who is actually a striker. As Ben was saying, in essence, he is. He's just never been considered that, and probably doesn't consider that himself. But all of the evidence is that he is.
Yeah, he's a big lad as well. He's a physical lad as well, so that does help. And he's clearly just really hard to mark in the box. It's just funny because you just don't want him to get the ball outside the box, do you? You just just get it in the box and you'll be fine. No, because when I went to watch Ghent, was it 2 seasons ago now, he scored a brace, and I was just like, he's done nothing all game, but he's just popped up with these 2 goals. So let's go from one scoring enigma to another. If you're still sticking with your scoring enigma, Joris, for your player of the week.
Well, there's actually still a few options here in my short list there, to be honest, that fit that description. But also quick comment on Gandelman as well. Like, again, here with Scott, I kind of then touched on a point, like he scored a brace there, and I'm not sure if he's consistent in having these little streaks in a way, but not consistent over the whole course of a season. Like now he also has this, what was it, the streak Scott mentioned, 5 goals in 4 or 4 in 5, 5 in 4, I believe. But then he might go goalless for like 10 games, but then he scores a brace again. Like it's like weirdly consistently inconsistent in that sense. But yeah, enough about that, I guess. But but yeah, for my player of the week, I'm not wondering if I actually took him before even, and that would be if that's the case, that would be a shame because he doesn't deserve that either. But because I did pick him now for well, as Ben already alluded to a little bit, it's a player of Leuven, surprisingly, who is their top scorer now, and scored the late equalizer against Mechelen. That's definitely more a shout of like the season he personally maybe is having. Defensively, maybe not always still, but in this game he was actually quite good. He won most of his aerial duels at least, so he's really strong with his heads, and that he also has proven not only defensively but also attackingly, and has now scored 3 goals. Is their top scorer, which indeed has been touched on half an hour ago by now, I guess. That's the poor form that Leuven actually are having up front, but at on the one side, but on the other hand, also that he's actually having a good run there. Can we call him a bright light in this team? Also, still not entirely convinced, but he's improved a lot, I guess, in the sense of like, I really did not think he would be playing that long in the Jupiter Pro League at that level when he was at Zulte Waregem still, but he's proven to be like a good player, at least for the sides like Leuven. Maybe not for higher up, at least not now, but like for those sides fighting for them, maybe so like the right column maybe of the table, of the ranking. He can hold his own, but so that, I think he deserved a shout for his season so far in a side that is not shining, and and just for his improvement in general as well. And then luckily for both himself and the side, he's actually at least bringing some goals as well to grab some points here and there. Not enough, of course, for now, but that's also not his main task. But just a bit of a shout for the season so far.
Yeah, it's rare that we give him a shout. We've been quite critical of him, so it is nice to give him some positives. And if he keeps up this goal-scoring feat, he'll be a Ghent player by the end of next summer, because that's just the sort of thing they'd do. You're right. I think the way I see him is like he's good for them at the moment and at level, but if they got relegated, would any other club come and buy him? I don't think so. It's one of those sort of players, isn't it? Where like it's the same with a couple of Kortrijk players. Although randomly some of those players did actually get bought, which is quite interesting. And one of the players I thought would get bought is still there. So yeah, it's just funny how these things happen.
I have the feeling that it's more like Scott has with Mazzu as a manager, of course, instead of as a player, but like that he might by now find the club in those regions at least. Also, just maybe also, I feel like he didn't actually improve also in his defensive capabilities. Like at the back, it was more like he was giving away some goals. I don't have anything particular in mind, but I remember at some point he was gifting goals at Zulte Waregem, and I've got a feeling that has become less as well, which is probably more important than his scoring streak at the moment for his career as well. But indeed, I don't think he will make a big step up soon, at least if they would go down at any point. But I do feel like he would be one of those players that sticks around. So every league has I guess, like these players that stick around in the bottom or like the right column table of the table sides. I feel like he's developed into that one, and maybe he can develop more. Of course, he's actually still very young, of course.
Yeah, I always forget his age. I think you're right. He is like, if I look at the team sheet now, I'm not like, oh, hang on, like that's going to be a problem. I'm like, no, actually, that's like there's more trust and faith in him not to mess things up. And to be fair, that whole back line, I'm kind of like, oh, they shouldn't be as bad as they've been. And they've actually not been too bad defensively. It's at the other end that they've really struggled. Speaking of young Belgian players, my player of the week is a young Belgian player who he doesn't really get any credit. I don't think he's really been mentioned that much. Camille van der Peer from Union, previously of the Genk youth system, but joined Union 2 seasons ago. Made 40 appearances last season. Has played a lot more this season in terms of starting games, just because of obviously Charles van Hout leaving and a couple of others leaving as well. So he's really been given that opportunity. Had a great game against Sint-Truiden in the middle of the park. Got an assist. I think he won the most tackles in the game as well. Was involved in the most duels and won those as well with 10. Passing numbers looked pretty good. It is an all-round good performance from him. Obviously, he also played 90 minutes in that game against Inter. So it's really interesting to see. Obviously, we know with Union, and Alex has spoken about it to us before, about how difficult it is for them to set up the academy that they'd probably like to set up, because just financially what they'd need to put into it is just ridiculous in terms of actually getting land to house this team. So they've had to be quite clever in trying to pick up these young Belgian players from other teams that they think, we can take that player, we can develop them. And it looks like they've got another one in Van der Peer in there. Obviously, Belgian under-21 international as well. He's just having a really good season, getting Champions League appearances, everything like that. So he looks to be the next one that's stepping up. We always speak about this with Union, how a players leave and then the next one comes in and steps up. They've signed Rob Scoos, but it's like you've got him in there next to Van der Peer. That's quite an interesting player for him to kind of learn from. They're slightly different. Obviously, Van der Peer's a little bit more defensively minded. With Sadiki going as well, that opportunity to be that player that kind of wins the battle in midfield has opened up as well, and he seems to be taking that. So yeah, fair play to him. He had a great game against Sint-Truiden, 2-0 win for Union. They stay top of the league, and we promised everyone that we'd do a little bit more second division action this week. But Joris wants to say something. Obviously, I was speaking about ex-Genk players, so maybe you want to jump in on this one.
Yeah, also I want to jump in on that, and also I'll just first do that. I do feel like he's a little at the moment still below, because I do feel at Champions League level he's one of those players that is okay. It's not a shame as well, especially he's still young, but that he's not at that level yet that he would need to be to get them even better results there. In the Belgian league so far, it really does seem most of the time really good. But yeah, I had actually hinted at someone on my shortlist, so I'll just give a quick shout for listeners that would still be wondering. Probably no one, but at least like the one player I was alluding to that would be also maybe consistently inconsistent, and that for my shortlist was Rodriguez, also from Union, of course. Scoring 2 goals scoring goals out of nowhere and then disappearing for a little bit, at least from the score sheet. Now he made the goals, of course, against Sint-Truiden this weekend and did the job for them. Had petered out a little bit after the previous after a good start to the season, and another one does, but less important was Van der Rijden as well, the other one that scored a brace against for Gent and his first 2 goals. But with that, there's no real segue. I don't think any of those sides will be playing in the Challenger Pro League soon. I hope for them at least. But I guess we can make that segue now. Let's dive in. I guess Scott is probably. Yeah.
It is over to me, isn't it? Sorry, there was a dramatic pause there waiting for me to remind everybody what happened this week on Matchday 11. So I thought I would play up to that. So yeah, what did happen on Matchday 11? Well, Frank Moran beat the Young Buffaloes, Young Ghent 2-0. Sarang and Liège drew 1 each. Club Next drew 1 each with Olympique de Charleroi, who very, very nearly got their first win this weekend. Jonas de Rock getting out of jail in his first game with Club Next, right at the death in that game. Beveren are still top of the table. They won 2-1 against Patro Eisden. Cas Eupen beat Young Genk 2-1. RFC Liège fine start to the season continues. They won 4-3 in a bit of a thriller against Molenbeek. Lommel lost 2-1 to Beerschot, and Anderlecht Futures lost 2-1 to Lokeren. So Beveren are still top of the table. Olympique de Charleroi are still bottom of the table. So the bigger picture, not too much has changed.
No, it hasn't. I think just looking at that table, Molenbeek are probably one of the biggest disappointments so far this season in terms of teams that you'd think should or potentially want to be pushing for that top spot. What, are they down in 8th place now? What, 16, 17 points off Beveren in top spot? Like, that is a massive gap. Like, they're not going to overturn that, let's be honest. I think Beveren, if they can just continue, like, beating Pacho is a great result as well for them. Like, that's another side that have ambitions of being in kind of the playoffs or in that top 2. Really hope Beerschot don't get promoted. I guess many of us could probably think that. I don't. Yeah, it just feels like they'll just be coming up to go straight back down again. Obviously, they'll have the new owners and stuff like that, so it'd be interesting to see kind of how that played out. But they just feel like one of those. De Rocket Club next. I guess we should probably touch on that a little bit. I think it's a weird one for me in the sense of I feel like he should be in the Pro League. Like, I rate him quite high, and I think he should be in there. But I'm also like, you take over Club next, you might be Club Bruges manager next up. So you kind of, maybe that's what he's looking at. He's like, I'll just cut my teeth here for a little bit, get to work with some really exciting young players as well. There's going to obviously be plenty of talent in there. It's just a strange one, because I just feel like he's kind of stopped himself from getting a Pro League job at the moment because you'd obviously have to play club to get him out of there, and they're going to be like, well, we really want him in here because for the youth development, I think it's fantastic to have a head coach like Joris de Rock down in for your academy team. It's pretty good to have someone managing your second team that's better than a lot of managers managing teams' first teams in the Pro League, isn't it? And so, that could be an interesting one. I watched a couple of the highlights of the Eupen game as well. I've always got a soft spot for Eupen. Maybe it's because of me being able to speak German and them being one of the only teams that speaks German. It's kind of like, it's always nice to see them doing well. But the atmosphere was so dead. It was so bad. And it's not obviously on them. It's because they're playing one of the academy teams. It was just, you just get reminded of I don't think I could go watch that week in, week out to play against. It must be really hard to drum up, we're playing the young team and please come and watch us play this, compared to when they face an RFC Liège where there's a little bit more kind of oomph and emphasis on that sort of game. It is really, really difficult. But yeah, I don't know, what do you guys think about the Rock at Club Next? It is I saw you nodding your head to me, Scott, in terms of what you think, I guess.
Yeah, I think this kind of took a lot of people by surprise. I mean, there's been quite a lot of interest in him, and it just sort of hasn't come together between Joris and some clubs who were interested in him. And obviously, there hasn't been a project that's come along that, frankly, has lit his fire to any extent either. Ben mentioned earlier how Leuven should have thrown themselves over hot coals and crawled towards him, and perhaps if they'd lifted the phone a couple of days earlier than they did, then maybe they would have been able to kind of get there in the end on this one, because that should have been a very obvious conversation. I think it is a bit odd, and on one aspect, it's kind of quite sad to kind of see him drop down to the development level in that sense. It's not sad in that, from a career point of view, I think it kind of makes sense in lots of ways, particularly this choice. Ben's explained why. The prize, if this comes off, is actually quite a great one potentially as well. But at the same time, a coach of his ability and his reputation, it's a bit dumbfounding as to why he's not ended up anywhere. Some clubs have missed an opportunity as well. There were a number of clubs over the summer who he nearly did end up at, and those clubs weren't able to kind of push the boat out and get it over the line when really they should have. But at the same time, Joris did hold his ground and say no to a couple of those clubs because he just didn't feel that they were necessarily the right move for his own CV at that point, which is obviously a coach's prerogative. Sometimes you need to take a job and just do well in it and let that speak for itself. To kind of reignite your career a little bit. I think he's learned a lot from his experience at Antwerp, where I think ultimately, as we know, we've underlined this a few times, he was kind of harshly treated really on the whole. I think he'll probably do all right at club next. There's obviously something going on there where, yeah, they're just not performing at the moment, and it wasn't really that much different this weekend. What I saw that game, I did see a little bit of it. I thought they were pretty poor. They probably should have lost the game, and their blushes were spared. It would have added to their embarrassment and their poor season if they'd been the first side to be in the receiving end of an Olympic Charleroi win. That would have not been a great look coming in for your first game. But I think they're probably delighted to have him. I mean, having that level of calibre of candidate at that level as well is kind of quite something. But Ben's right. I think this choice is about potentially a much bigger picture, because we have seen a series of coaches come through this role, join the club coaching staff, go back and forward a little bit, and then when an opportunity arises, step into the senior side gig at club as well. So I think he's very aware that this is how they operate. So I'm sure that's part of his thinking. This is not as bizarre a choice as it may seem. Something worth highlighting to everybody as well is obviously we've got a cup week this week as well. Next couple of nights feature some interesting fixtures. Some of the most interesting fixtures do feature CPL sides. Couple to look out for, because these are potential shocks, possibly, if we're going to get any. RSC Liège against Charleroi has the potential to throw up a shock, I think. Mechelen-Liège is one of the big ties of the round because it's a local derby and it's virtually sold out. That's one to, if you can get along to that and you're in Belgium, I would recommend that. And if you can't get along to it, I would recommend watching it if you could as well. I think that could be a good game. The other one I think that is going to be really interesting on the basis of form, Beveren at home to Standard. I don't think Standard are really going to enjoy going to the free tier the way Beveren are playing at the moment, and it's a real test actually of whether Beveren, the level they're at the moment, can compete with a Pro League side properly, because we've seen other CPL sides over the last few years doing quite well domestically in the league, but when a bigger side have come visiting in the cup, they've been given a little reminder of their true place in the pecking order. But there's 2 out of 3 fixtures where we could see a relative shock, and we need a shock. We haven't seen any cup shocks really for a little while. But yeah, it's worth highlighting that.
I'm mainly curious about the Dinder Olympic Charleroi game. Who is going to win their first game of the season? Well, it kind of has to be a draw and decided on penalties anyway, but who is going to get a little bit of a confidence boost there? But yeah, I also wanted to come back quickly on the Rook as well. I won't make it too long, but yeah, they should have probably lost that game against Olympic Charleroi. And actually, indeed, if it wasn't for a little goalkeeper mistake late on in the game, that also would have happened. But also, it's maybe worth remarking that the Rook actually made a similar step earlier in his career, where he managed already first season at Sint-Truiden as head coach, but then went to Anderlecht's under 21s and eventually moved up to an assistant manager there, and not really first team manager in the end. So I think one or a few games as caretaker manager, but nothing more than that. But before his actual going back to first team management, now he's taking a step down with the rival, of course, as well. But yeah, I'm sure indeed, as you both mentioned, there might be more like a career path laid down for him if he does well. Though I also don't know what will happen if he doesn't do well now, and it's a bit of a gamble, but okay, I guess he might still be around in the first 2 leagues at least, even at that in that case. Yeah, but yeah, for a few other things I randomly put together for the Challenger Pro League still as well. Like Framberey won their first game since their win on the first day of the season, so it had been a while. They really were chasing a win as well. There is indeed still 2 sides winless, that as in Club Next and Charleroi, as we now touched on already as well. Yeah, also just Beerschot. I know Ben said we don't want to see them in the first division, but they are doing all the things that they should to get promoted, scoring all the late winners, turning games around till the final minutes. Yeah, also like next weekend, just wanted to point out, so after the cup ties, of course, but like a very interesting game between Beerschot and Kortrijk for the battle for second place. We can call it for now as well. Yeah, with Beerschot 1 point behind Kortrijk currently, and Beveren will be probably happy with whatever result will come out of that anyway. But depending on their own result, of course. And yeah, just also want. We've been touching on Ambrose doing well at Kortrijk, but I think we also should give a few shouts to other players that are actually equally doing well, in the scoring sheets. And what's most remarkable to me is that it's not only the scoring sheets; they also all have multiple assists as well already. Yeah, the Robai from Molenbeek, 7 goals, 5 assists. Ambrose, also, as mentioned, also 7 goals, but also 5 assists. Lennart Mertens from Beveren, 7 goals, 4 assists, and Diouf, of whom you guys talked when I was not here, was not in. I think 1 week, also 7 goals now, and 2 assists for Liège. So yeah, that's really impressive to me that like all of the goal scorers are also good assist givers. It might have to do with like what we touched on maybe a bit as well, like multiple speeds maybe in the division between the sides. Some sides really wanting to fight for the top, and then some being happy to not go down mainly. And the difference in levels there, of course. The presence of youth squads also can play a role in that as well. Of course, the under 23s of some of the sides. Yeah, that were the main things I quickly wanted to run through here as well. But yeah, really looking forward to, and I'm probably the only person saying that, but for that Dender Olympic Charleroi game. But also, as Scott mentioned, that I think it's a big fixture. Mechelen against Lierse for a big derby in the cup on derby time. Hopefully, the last tickets will also be sold by game time, and yeah. We'll see an enjoyable game, even though, yeah, Mechelen is doing well. Lierse is not doing so well, 1 division lower. So, in theory, you would think that should be a clear victory. But, well, we all love a cup set as well, of course. Although this one probably Scott would not like as much.
No, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Dender Charleroi as well. Don't worry, that's my sicko thing. The other fixtures: Anderlecht against Nineveh. Or Ninove, which I only know because there's a book by Ned Bolting, the Tour de France respondent for ITV, and he just ends up there. That's kind of his hunt for a cyclist leads him to Nineveh, which is quite funny.
The second pronunciation was spot on, honestly.
Oh, that's Ninove.
Yes.
Liège, Charleroi, as we mentioned, Mechelen, Liège, Beveren Standard. Belizia Bilzen against Waregem, Club Brugge against the Onion Boys and Eintracht Aalst, Genk against Molenbeek, Heist against Leuven, Antwerp Eupen, that could be a good one, Tubize against Union, Beerschot Westerlo could be a good one as well, Cercle Brugge Kortrijk could also be a good one, maybe a cup set there, who knows. Ghent against Pacho, that Ghent always could lose. It seems quite standard. Solang against Leuven, the Maziz derby, and a knocker against St. Tunen. So yeah, plenty of cup games. We will do a roundup of those next week as well to decide who made it where. And that probably just about does it for this week. We're just in time for me to escape to watch, to which has caused much amusement in the podcast that I've had to go and watch a period drama because my sister's in it. So if anyone's interested in period dramas, check out the Foresights on Channel 5. You will see my sister. We don't look very much alike, so I don't think you'd probably work out which one it is. But if you see the name Jackson come up in the credits, you'll be able to put two and two together. But guys, it's been great to catch up. It's been great to talk all things Belgian football. It's been great to talk about Felice Mazzu again.
Have a brilliant week, everybody, and an update on Mazzu this time next week.
Oh, God.
He's back. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, as per usual, please do leave us a review on your podcast app of choice, especially if you haven't done so. It's really, really helpful. If you really, really like this episode and you really enjoy the podcast in general, do leave us a donation on our Buy Me a Coffee site, which you can find on our socials, and it will be linked in the show notes as well. Substack for Scott will also be linked in there. Make sure you're signed up for that. There'll be plenty of good things coming your way. I've just put pressure on Scott there to do that, but I'm sure there will be good things coming your way because everything that so far has come out has been really good. But apart from that, thanks as always for listening, and we'll speak to you again very soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.